So the other thing I want to mention, the unemployment rate he's bragging about, that's the lowest, ever, 6.8%. Oh my God, 6.8%. But what's that down from? It's down from 7.7. So yeah, oh my God, we went down a point. So, give credit where credit is due. But guess what? The new numbers just came out, and the new numbers say that it's 7.7%. Donald Trump hasn't changed the unemployment numbers for black folks. And then if that number that I was quoting.
We don't BS here.
Well, read me the language.
Nearly 4 in 10 African American children are living in poverty, while 58% of African American youth are now not employed.
He just said that was from 2016, July 20th, the Republican National Convention. He was saying that under Obama, so therefore under Hillary, things are going to be the same for black folks, right? 4 in 10 black kids are in poverty, and then 59% of black youth, African-American youth, are not employed. Not employed.
While 58% of African-American youth are now not employed.
Okay, why are you yelling at me? 58%, 59% of the black youth are not employed. Are you yelling at us? Are you telling us that this is a problem? I mean, this is insane. I mean, I don't understand. What are you trying to say to me? So 59% of the black youth aren't working? That's what you're concerned about? Oh my God. Black kids aren't working, the black youth aren't working. So essentially it feels like a dog whistle when you put the two quotes together.
Nearly 4 in 10 African American children are living in poverty, while 58% of African American youth are now not employed.
It's saying, are you listening, whites? Are you listening? 4 out of 10 black kids are poor. And that's because of the youth. There's a whole crapload. There's a whole bunch of kids, black kids, that are poor, and there's a whole bunch of black youth that aren't working. Why are they poor? Because they're not working. So I feel like it's a dog whistle. They put those two together. It's not for, he didn't say it for empathy. He didn't say it for sympathy's sake. Essentially, he's sitting there saying, like, look at the black youth. There's 59%, so the black president isn't doing good for the black folks, at least for, a bunch. For some, economically, that's true, but Obama gave the entire world a vision of the black man that we've never seen before. So to say that, Donald Trump is going to be the one who comes in and helps the black folks out, Donald Trump is. So the other fact that he says, or the stat that he quotes,
of generosity and warmth. But we will also be a country of law and order, of generosity and warmth.
The 59 black youth aren't employed. Oh my God. So what do you think that they're doing? I am not concerned about that. I mean, perhaps they're just a bunch of kids wanting to be kids. The black youth, the age bracket is 24 years of age to 16 years of age. So you're 16 and you don't have a job. That does not alarm me. That is not concerning. What are you doing? You're 16 years old now. What are you up to? Oh, you're in high school. Oh, okay. Well, you're 20 years old now. What are you up to? Oh, you're in college. All right, I see what's going on. So how much of that percentage, that 59% of black youth don't have jobs because they're in school, because they're in college? So that number doesn't tell us anything. Compared to the whites, it's of white youth don't have jobs, but that's 50%. That's half of them. That's still a crap ton of whites that don't have jobs. So the unemployment...
Almost 14 million votes, the most in the history of the Republican Party, and that...
couching support as if Donald is in favor of black folks, because he's not. His economic policies will utterly destroy black people and white people in this entire country. So for the strumpets, for the Trumplings, for the Donald Trump, I don't know, the sycophants. So for the Trump sycophants, they get to pretend like he's in favor of black folks, but I bet you they internalize those figures differently, like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. All those kids are poor because all the, the youth don't have jobs. but half the white kids, the youth, 24 to 16 white folks, 50% don't have jobs, so compared to 59%. And then if you're under 16 and you're not poor, not because the 16 to 24-year-old blacks are unemployed.
Nearly 4 in 10 African American children are living in poverty, while 58% of African American youth are now not employed.
Crystal clear here. So they're trying to, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it doesn't make any damn sense. It makes no damn sense whatsoever. 4 out of 10 black kids are poor, and actually here in Pueblo, 3 out of 10 kids are poor. 3 out of all the kids in the city are poor. So that's not just a black thing, it's everybody. All, kids are in poverty. I did pull up some stats comparing the races with child poverty, which I'll talk about here in a second. But I just want to clarify that those two groups aren't even the same groups. The black kids are under 16, and then the black youth are over 16 to 24 years of age. So they're not connected. Just because the 16 to 24-year-olds don't have jobs, is that the reason why the 40% of the kids are poor? That don't make any sense. They're two different groups.
Well, you have done the impossible. You have made America read again.
The total number for kids in poverty is 2 out of every 10. So we got 20% young poverty, young youth still under Trump. He hasn't changed any of these facts. None of this has changed. The unemployment for black folks hasn't changed. This group is a different number. It hasn't changed. So the unemployment, the poverty for black folks, none of these numbers have changed. So for him to get in there and to brag like he's changing everything, I saw Frank Luntz was doing some kind of focus group, and there was one guy that said Obama had 59% unemployment and Donald Trump has brought it down to record numbers to 6%. So there's some Republicans out there that actually think that Donald Trump took 59% unemployed black folks and has now put them all to work. And then also the unemployment figure, that's the lowest unemployment ever. What about during slavery? Wasn't everybody employed back then? So to say that is the lowest unemployment.
The Republican Party would get 60% more votes than it received 8 years ago. Who would have believed this?
10, 2 or more races. So for the mixed kids, 1 out of 5 mixed kids are in poverty. For the non-Hispanic white, 12%. So non-Hispanic white kids are actually they're doing okay, right? 90% of them are doing all right. It's when you put all of them together, you get the 20%. But 12%, is that acceptable? All of it's unacceptable. So it's a death sentence. Poverty is a death sentence, and 12% of the white poor kids have a death sentence. 2 or more races, 24%. Latino is 28%. Black or African American, 34%. Asian Pacific Islander, 12%. And American Indian, 34%. So it's not even 4 out of 10. It's 34%. So he's inflating these numbers. He's making up these numbers. He's, essentially exaggerating statistics and damn statistics and, lies, statistics, and damn statistics, damn lies, damn lies, and statistics. Those are the three.
Who would have believed this? Our country back to safety, prosperity, and peace. Our convention.
Clarify, right? So if you were at the Republican National Convention, Trump did say 59% of the black youth have no jobs, and then at the State of the Union, he just said that the lowest unemployment rate ever. Here's the exact same the thing that he said. So they went down to a record low 6.8%. So that's very good. The unemployment rate is actually really phenomenal. It's fantastic. So for him to be taking credit that has nothing to do, it's very disingenuous. So 6.8% is the unemployment rate now for black folks. African American unemployment stands at the lowest rate ever recorded, he said. And then he goes on to say black unemployment rate is record lows. Hispanic unemployment rate reached record lowest levels in history. And then that's, unfortunately, for him, it's a continuation of an earlier trend because the unemployment rate has been going down under Obama, under Trump. So to put those two facts together.
Occurs at a moment of crisis for our nation. The attacks on our police and the terrorism of our cities threaten our very way of.
59% is how many, they thought the Republican supporters thought that that's how many people, black youth, were not, black people probably, and now it's just down to 6%. So it seems like none of the black folks had jobs, and now all of them have jobs because of Jennifer Trump. So the other thing I want to mention, the unemployment rate he's bragging about, that's the lowest, ever, 6.8%. Oh my God, 6.8%. But what's that down from? It's down from 7.7. So yeah, oh my God, we went down a point. So, give credit where credit is due. But guess what? The new numbers just came out, and the new numbers say that it's 7.7%. Donald Trump hasn't changed the unemployment numbers for black folks. And then if that number that I was quoting, now, this is a very specific, very particular number. It is known as I'll get it to you here in a second, but it's a very particular.
One more child to sacrifice on the order and on the altar of open borders. What about our economy?
Employment population ratio, and I like the employment population ratio a little bit better than where they're getting this unemployment statistics at anyways. It's a survey. The Labor Bureau puts out a survey, and then that's how we find out who's unemployed and who's not unemployed. So I think that's not very, I don't like that. I like this employment population ratio. So essentially what it is doing is just saying that how many people are employed compared to the whole population, which I think is what we should be doing anyways. So the employment population ratio is where that number 59% came from. So it's 58.5%. He just rounded up to 59%. But May 2016, the Bureau said that the employment population ratio for blacks 16 to 24 was 41.5%. That's how many were in
life. Big business, elite media, and major donors
were employed. 41.5%, flipped that around, 58.5%, rounded up, 59%. So that's where Trump got that number, was the employment population ratio. Different than the unemployment number, but it's a good number. I like this a lot better. And there's problems with the unemployment number. The problems with the unemployment number is they don't count most of the people. They don't count, they don't take into account that they're students. They're students in high school and they're students in college. So, and then what about the people what about the rich kids, right? What about the retired folks? And then there's housewives. So there's a lot of people that's not actively looking for work. And so that actually plays into the unemployment figure. It's, are you looking for work? Are you employed now, or are you looking for work? If you're not looking for work and you're not, even interested, they don't consider you a part of the labor, pool. You're not part of the labor.
Are you kidding me? I'm not reading you anything.
Play the Bill Maher.
If you don't get it, and you don't get what we're talking about, I'm sorry. This is awkward. You're here on the set with us, but we're done. Michael Wolff, thank you. We're going to go to break now. Bye, everyone. We'll be right back.
January, it rose to 7.7% black unemployment. And actually, macroeconomics at both Xavier and University of Louisville, I took macroeconomics in both of those schools, and they both said 5%. We can tolerate 5% unemployment. So 7.7 isn't bad, but when Trump got in there, it was 7.8. Now it's 7.7, so it went down to 0.1. That's nothing. It's essentially, virtually unchanged. So he hasn't even touched the unemployment number. Now, that black employment ratio that I was talking about, the employment population ratio, so employed versus population, that's the ratio. The 59% was for black youth, and then 49% for white youth. It's the same today. It's the same today, the exact same. So that hasn't changed either. The employment population ratio for black folks hasn't changed. The unemployment ratio, the unemployment numbers
are lining up behind the campaign of my opponent because they know she will keep.
Overall unemployment rate is 4.1, which is incredible. That's under 5%. So 4.1% is the unemployment rate. So that's, like I said, they're not counting children. None of those are part of the labor market. So they're not counting the retired. They're not counting the housewives. I mean, that's why it's a bad number. It's not a good number. the other number isn't a good. Neither one of these numbers are great numbers. Just know where they're failing. But essentially, in terms of what Trump has done and what he hasn't done, they haven't changed. They haven't changed. The unemployment rate in November of last year was 4.6%. Now it's 4.1%. It was low under Obama. It's low under Trump. If anything, he took it down 0.5%, a half a percentage point. And then unemployment rate for white people sank from 3.7 to 3.5. Latino rose to 5%, 4.9 to 5%.
Ricky Fowler, John Rahm, and
that Roger Stone, he says economics too, right? Economics. Can't stand these stuck-up fucking snobs. Roger Stone is so stuck up, but this is, Reaganomics, Trumponomics. Just basically rich people do as the fuck as they want, and then it trickles down on everybody else, right? Yeah, right. You're pissing on me, tell me it's raining. Oh, yeah, great, trickle down. Roger Stone says economics. This is the economics that we're listening. This is what we're talking about. So the economics, that hasn't changed. Donald Trump has not been great for black people. Don't believe his bullshit. He's an absolute liar. The unemployment rate is the exact same, and then so is the employment population ratio. So they're both the exact same. So he's lying. There's some other problems with the unemployment number too. It also doesn't gauge the discouraged workers. It also underemployment. They don't talk about it. So discouraged workers, underemployment, and
our rigged system in place. Our convention occurs at a moment of crisis for our nation.
Talk a little bit about just basically the unemployment number, which is that survey, versus the ratio, the population, the employment population ratio. So the employment population ratio includes the full-time students and the retired, the children, and the housewives. They include that. So that number tells us something, but what's it really tell us? 59% of those from, 16, which are you supposed to get a job at 16? You should be in school. So that tells us something, right? 41% of the total population is employed. So that's the market that's employed. But knowing the whole population, the employment population number, you know the potential. You know that how much, there are lots of people who are not working that could be working. The unemployment doesn't take into account those things, but they they measure the ones who want work, who are looking for a job.
Of generosity and warmth. But we will also be a country of law and order, of generosity and warmth.
Unemployment to the unemployment number to that survey is that the state of an individual looking for a paying job but not having one. And so there's a problem with the unemployment number. What, housewives, that's some of the most important work we're doing out here, and that's not considered real work? Bullshit, that is real work. They also don't take into account underemployed people. So if you just have, you work for an hour, you're underemployed, you need more work, but you're employed. So basically it's a binary approach. You're either employed or not employed, and then it doesn't take into account the market potential. So either you're employed, you got a part-time job, you worked an hour. There's marginally attached workers, ones who worked for a day, for a month, and then there's discouraged workers, ones who want a paying job but they've given up looking for it. And then anyone who hasn't been looking for at least hasn't been working for 27 weeks is considered to be long-term unemployed.
Nearly 4 in 10 African American children are living in poverty, while 58% of African American youth are now not employed.
Unemployment rate, technically called the U3, It simply divides the number of people who are not working, want to work, and have been actively applying for jobs. So, again, wives and mothers, they don't get a W-2, so therefore it's not really work. The labor force participation is a matter of degree, not just binary. And then there's satisfaction. So you have 40-hour job at a low place, right, at a marginally attached worker, so you really hate the job, but you just got to do it because you got to put food on the table. So there's a matter of degree, whether it's just for 1 day, 1 hour, for part-time, full-time, it doesn't matter. If you got a job, you got a job. Whether whether you're there all the time or you just go there once a day. That doesn't tell us anything really. So there's, just understand that all economics professors, they know about these problems with the numbers, but it's not.
Nearly 4 in 10 African American children are living in poverty, while 58% of African American youth are now not employed.
Employed are essentially those people who want more work. So there are 8 million Americans who have part-time work right now, but they want a full-time job. So, and then there's 4 million Americans who are marginally attached workers. So there's, large subsets of the population that we're not totally, we're not adding. And so there's a problem, right? There's a problem with the unemployment rate, the number. There's a problem with the employment population ratio, but they're telling us specific things. But either one of those numbers, and including the 4 out of 10 black kids, that is still the same. You still have the same percentage of black kids that are in poverty, the same percentage of black folks that are unemployed, the same percentage of black folks that compare the employment population ratio. The exact same. None of these numbers have changed. Maybe 0.01% or something. So Donald Trump hasn't done shit for black America. Black America, it's stagnated.
Are you kidding me? I'm not reading you anything.
Play the Bill Maher.
If you don't get it, and you don't get what we're talking about, I'm sorry. This is awkward. You're here on the set with us, but we're done. Michael Wolff, thank you. We're going to go to break now. Bye, everyone. We'll be right back.